Susan Storm is not only the master of invisibility, but could actually be the best and most fun strategist in Marvel Rivals Season 1. She has a great arsenal of abilities, and is really strong as both a defensive and an offensive hero. By the end of this video, even beginners will be dominating lobbies, so drop me a like and let's get going. Invisible Woman's primary attack is Orb Projection, and works not only as a damage dealer, but also as a healing projectile. It's also kinda unique because these projectiles also return to her, meaning not only do they hit going forward, they also hit coming backwards. Now, not only is this a strong ability that provides a decent amount of heal and an okay amount of damage, but it can also hit multiple enemies at once. Therefore, this attack works especially well when there's a whole bunch of players clumped up together, as you can damage and heal everyone within that space. If there's a wall behind them, the projectile will hit that and then return, but if there's not, it goes for a maximum of 30 meters before returning. The first ability I want to look at is Guardian Shield, which can be casted on any friendly teammate. Now, not only does this cast a shield directly in front of wherever your ally is looking, but they also get a huge health boost. Yes, that means you can't just place it onto the floor in front of you, it has to be attached to a friendly. This shield, once placed, will never disappear unless you either cast it back or it's destroyed, which by the way it has 300 HP, and you can see that with the indicator on the screen. As you'll notice, once the shield breaks, it goes onto a 6-second cooldown, which is obviously not great as it leaves you with only your orb projection to heal allies. There is, however, a nice workaround that I think a lot of new players won't know, and that's that you can drop the shield on a teammate in which they'll receive brief protection as well as a health boost. You can then hit V to cancel it, and the cooldown this time will only last for 1 second instead of 6. So realistically, you want to be dropping your shield and either retracting it straight away or simply moving it to another damaged teammate. And just so you know, you can endlessly move the shield between teammates, which grants them healing over time of course, until the shield breaks. So I would highly recommend you do that. As well, the shield doesn't just provide healing for the teammate you casted it on, but it actually heals anyone that's initially behind the shield. Next we have Psionic Vortex, which you can activate with Shift. This is an orb you can throw out into enemies, and anyone within this orb will take damage. As well, anyone within the orb will be pulled towards the center, making it slightly harder for enemies to escape. And as well, the closer someone is to the center, the more damage is dealt. I've noticed a lot of players don't actually know this, but you can actually detonate this at a chosen spot. So for example, if there's a flying Iron Man or Storm, you can throw it towards them and then detonate it mid-air. And doing this also briefly disables their flight, making it easier to kill flying targets. Her E ability is Force Physics, and gives her the ability to either push or pull enemies in front of her. Now, after practicing this, I've noticed this pushes or pulls for about 5 meters, which isn't a whole lot, but it can be enough to either push a diving hero away from you or to pull an enemy towards your team and pull them out of position. It's actually pretty good because you don't have to be too accurate with it, so as long as you aim in the rough vicinity, you'll probably hit the target. And might I add, this also does damage to them, which is a nice positive of course. So because this acts as a boop almost, I'm pretty sure there's going to be plenty of occasions where you can boop the enemy team off of the map, so you can use the environment to benefit yourself. Next up, I want to talk about her passive because it's an incredibly crucial part of her kit, which, as you have probably noticed throughout this video, allows you to be completely invisible. Like, I'm talking 100% invisible, meaning no enemies can see you at all, and it simply lasts forever once you're in this state. Now, because of this, I think it gives you a high potential to outplay other heroes, so it's quite understandable why she's a 4-star difficulty. Now, it's not completely overpowered, as there is some minor setbacks. First off, if you take any sort of damage whilst invisible, you will reappear in front of everyone, so it's good to stay out of the general line of fire. Secondly, if you choose to attack any heroes, you will also come out of invisibility. And once you're out of this, you cannot enter for a total of 5 seconds. So it's really important to figure out when to engage and when not to engage. During this passive ability, you will also grant healing to yourself while you're out of the fight. One way to use this ability to your advantage is to use it alongside her Veiled Step, which is her space ability. This generates a force field at her feet, which essentially allows her to double jump. This has a 6-second cooldown, and of course allows her to jump up to spots quite a few heroes can't reach, giving her the advantage of high ground. What you may have noticed though is double jumping actually immediately activates her invisibility, so just be careful when carelessly using it, as I wouldn't burn the ability if you don't need to, especially if you could potentially need it within the next 6 seconds. Now, from playing the game, I've noticed it's actually best to save this ability as almost a get out of jail card. One thing you can do if you get dived by Spider-Man or Black Panther is throw the orb down in front of your feet to distort and confuse the enemy, and then double jump out, becoming invisible and escaping the fight. Time for the ultimate now, which unlike Mr. Fantastic's, has actually game-changing potential. This is called Invisible Boundary, and essentially creates a circled area where players cannot look in, but players within the ultimate can look out. Almost like a one-way mirror. Now, there's a lot of confusion around this ult, so let's first off wrap that up. As you can see, there's an outer circle and an inner circle. I've done a bit of testing and I think this is purely visual, correct me if I'm wrong, but dropping the ult with a player within the center ring doesn't seem to have any effect whatsoever, so I think it's purely visual. When you're in this ring, yourself and teammates receive healing, like a really decent amount. You're almost pretty much invincible. It's not as crazy as Luna's or Mantis's ult, but it's really strong. As well, any enemies either entering or leaving the invisible boundary get hit with a brief slowness effect. Now, to top this off, this ultimate lasts 8 seconds, which is definitely enough time to win the team fight, or at least put you on the winning side of the fight. Before I discuss the best combos you need to be using with the Invisible Woman, I want to briefly talk about her team up ability, which is called Wedded Harmony, and is activated when teamed up with, of course, Mr. Fantastic. This allows Invisible Woman to tap into her powers and grant Mr. Fantastic damage resistance and herself bonus health. To be more accurate, however, Invisible Woman gets a 15% healing boost as she is the anchored character, and Mr. Fantastic gets regenerative health. To be honest though, it's a decent team up, but definitely not the best in the game. By the way, I just released a Mr. Fantastic guide who is stupidly overpowered at the minute, so you have to check that one out after this video. Oh, and please consider subscribing as we're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of the month. So how can you actually effectively use Invisible Woman and her kit to absolutely dominate lobbies? Personally, I think she's great as an aggressive strategist, as she does a decent amount of damage and does well at getting out of the fight if she needs to. First off, you can use her melee ability to your advantage. As you can see, she has a 3-hit combo: punch, punch, and then force push, which gives the enemies a slight knockback. So what you can do is combine this with your normal attack to maximize damage output. Essentially, you want to orb, punch, orb, and then force push. When this pushes the enemies away, you can use force physics to finish them off or pull them back towards you. As well, I talked about how when you get dived you can throw the vortex onto the floor and double jump to escape, but you can actually more than likely throw the vortex down, in which the enemy will be displaced and take damage from the vortex's pull, and then you can fire projectiles at them, and if they try to escape you can then pull them back into the vortex to take even more damage. Now, with your healing, to be effective as possible, you really need to cycle through your cooldowns effectively, using your shield as much as possible between your teammates to keep them all alive. Finally, although the ult is great for healing, it lasts 8 seconds, so you can actually use it to take space and push a point. The enemy's backline will be forced to push forward and be out of position, and you can get some picks once they're slowed down by the boundary. That's been the best Invisible Woman guide on YouTube. Leave a like, subscribe, and check out the Mr. Fantastic guide. I'll see you there.